New Ami밤, new decoration, with the only difference that I attempted to make the color look like Jungkook's mic this time. For the video I will use the most recent version of the Ami밤, the Map of the Soul Special Edition. And for decorating I will use Swarovski crystals again. The materials and steps are pretty much the same as in my first video, so I'll explain how I applied the base coat and then of course I'll show you how I placed the crystals. So what we want to begin with is applying a base coat consisting of 3 layers of gesso and 1 coat of acrylic paint. Paint only the areas the crystals need a more secure bond to the surface, so basically just where you hold the Ami밤. Get some tape on the buttons and edges before you start to paint. You may also want to cover the barb to avoid scratches. You can color gesso with acrylic paint to match it more to the last coat already. This one final layer of acrylic paint will be your base color for the crystals, so choose this one wisely. All 3 layers of gesso and the 1 layer of acrylic paint is applied, take off the tape as long as the paint is still wet to avoid unpretty edges. This whole process may seem like much, but it's done rather quickly. My choice of color was the Fuchsia Shimmer in the size of SS5. This is the smallest size I could find and it's quite stressful to work with, and in all honesty, if you're not confident with stuff like that, you may want to use a size like SS9. As for the glue, I used the E6000 again, and for picking up the crystals, a simple gem picker. I haven't shown this last time, so let's unwrap one of the Swarovski packages together. One package comes with 1440 crystals, of which I ended up using 3 packages, which amount was just enough for me. But if you choose to bedazzle the whole Ami밤, you'll need around 4600 crystals. So let's finally start to bedazzle the Ami밤. Starting from the bottom, I work my way up, going around the buttons. I will skip the ball part for now until I finish the handle, as I only figured out how to apply the glue in the right amount when I reached the back. You can disregard what I did here for now. Although I worked with this glue before, I have to say it became really inconvenient for this project since I used a different crystal size this time. But more to this later. But yeah, don't mind me skipping parts from time to time as I haven't recorded everything. When you reach the buttons, You will have to concentrate placing your crystals right at the edge, so if your alignment of crystals would change here, then that's totally normal. And you can correct this by blending it out to the sides. For me, I had to place them beside each other for 2 to 3 rows until I could return to my usual alignment by placing them with as little gaps as possible. And by correcting, I simply mean when you work your way towards the side, you can have a little more space of background color shown between the crystals here and there. See, this is why it's so important to have your background color match your crystal color. I love when it's not focused and you see the sparkle like this. It's definitely worth the work. Seriously, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Do it too, guys. You will not regret it. Okay, back to business. As I told you earlier, I had trouble with the glue. This glue is very thick and often even leaves strings. It's almost behaving like hot glue. On top of that, it's quite a challenge to apply a thin coat of glue so that I won't end up with the glue oozing up between the crystals once I press them down. And sadly, there aren't many options of glue to use if you want strong adhesive. Maybe you have some more luck in finding a better one. I couldn't. Anyways, I can just show you my process, like for example this little real-time snippet of placing and pressing down the crystals. Feels like taking ages? Yeah, imagine that with over 4,000 crystals now. Lovely. I found it easiest to use a needle to press this down. You cannot skip this part, or otherwise I will not guarantee you that your crystals will stay put. I didn't recreate the original lettering map of the soul, but I wanted to do something, so I ended up with simply spelling JK instead. I will now move on to attach some foil to the bottom. This is a Multichrome foil which I also use on the buttons as well as partly on the fuse. It shimmers in blue or purple depending on the lighting, which I thought fits the overall design best. I made the foil overlap on the edge and secured it with some glue. That way it won't rub off ever. You want to attach some foil too? Then please do this before you start to bedazzle. Rest goes without saying, you know how it's done by now. To make things easier in life, you have to take risks sometimes. Army, please don't swear at me, but I will take off the fuse to have that access for my next step. I got some tape on to protect it from scratches that might happen from the cutter, but most likely won't happen. Just can't be safe enough, you know. Anyways, there are two lines where the bulb is connected, and on the shortest side you can push the cutter easiest underneath the fuse. Just slowly lift it up towards one side and you already got it off. Cover the hole with tape, otherwise dust gets in there, which you will never get out again. Yes, I know what I'm talking about, sadly. I'm just doing that because I will get my Multichrome foil on the top and I needed to cut very closely there. If you're too scared of that, just bedazzle it, or you won't have to take it off then, but yeah, the rest is pretty self-explanatory. You see how close I used to cut here and how I placed my crystals.